Papi, baby.
Yo, 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 what's good, y'all? It's Positive Papi, baby. And I am sitting here with Tyree Harris, the amazing photographer and beautiful poetic writer. How you doing, man?
Appreciate you, dog. I'm doing well, man. Over here in Studio City, enjoying this sunset over here. So it's nice.
Bro, you got the best spot right now.
Cooling.
I'm just facing our second half bathroom right here instead of the sunset.
That's love, man. I see
Right?
you in hand.
Listen, these kids is whooping my ass. Today was one of those days where at the end of it, you're like, I need some wine, weed, or something.
Right.
And wow, I'm ashy. Hope they went through that. They'll see it in the YouTube video. Oh
My
well.
elbows is down, bro. I'm not trying to expose myself. I'm good.
Smart man.
Yo, man,
For all those that aren't watching this, I'm ashy as hell right now.
Man, kids are crazy. I got a cat. That's kid enough for me right now.
What's your cat's name?
Neela.
Neela. That's
Yeah.
tight.
She's probably scratching on the door right now trying to get in, but trying to give you good audio. So
I appreciate that. Audio sounds fire.
word.
So let's just warm up with a couple of, easy questions.
Yeah.
What's your favorite color and why?
I don't know if I have a favorite color per se. I think what I do have is sort of a perspective on color, and my perspective on color is kind of influenced by sort of the bleached out brightness of the LA cityscape, where everything's really harsh and super sunny and vibrant. And I try to incorporate that, but also infuse it with bright flash to kind of make it feel like you're kind of on a spotlight and to make things a little surreal. So it's not as much like a certain color that I look for, at least in my photography stuff, as much as it's just a color approach overall that I'm trying to capture.
That's tight. So almost like a feeling in a way.
Yeah, exactly. I think, if I'm doing a street photography thing, it's nice to look for those bright reds and things like that. But, in general, there's not a certain color that particularly has my eye.
So if you had to pick one though, what would it be?
If I had to pick, it would probably be some sort of red or something. There's just something about big, bright, vibrant reds in photography. They're just so iconic and undeniable.
Right. That's so real.
Mm-hmm.
If you had to describe yourself in one word, what would it be and why?
I think I would say that I'm a learner, and I know that's a very broad thing. But I think the thing that I really appreciate is that if I find an interest in something, I can really get to the bottom of it in a compelling way. I think photography is a good example of that. I didn't go to school for photography. I went to school for journalism and graduated with a journalism degree.
That's tight.
But after college and everything, my mom just randomly got me a camera, and I was like, well, and it was a little old, a Rebel digital camera, entry level.
Yes, the Rebel.
Got them, right? And I was like, okay, well, I have this thing. I may as well try to learn how to use it. And, me already having a background in journalism and working in advertising for a year or so, I already had a conceptual background of storytelling and branding and identification, all that kind of stuff. So I was like, I'm not just gonna take random photos to learn. I'm gonna go and see if I can do some sort of project. So I went out to the Venice basketball community, and I just started taking photos of people playing basketball. And surely enough, over a series of 3 years or so, before you know it, I had figured it out. I had started getting paid work and, started to really elevate it to the next level, which is
Hell yeah.
fun. And I'm still very, very early on, of course, but I think that sort of like curiosity is something that I really appreciate, and I would like to hope is like a definitive characteristic of how people see me.
Dang, that's crazy, bro. I think that's so wild.
Screaming
That's
bloody
Aiden.
background.
Right. Let's just wait for the airplane to pass.
Right.
But I think what's crazy is like hearing that you went to school for journalism.
Right.
You know, like, oh, have have you ever thought about visuals, or has it always been writing and like that sort of side of things?
So when I went to school for journalism, like we had like this multimedia program where like you did like video and a little bit of photo stuff and all that. And I was just kind of like, yeah, whatever, but I'm going to be a writer, so who cares? So like I went through the motions on those things and like understood them, but I kind of always figured that would never be like my world, so to speak. In hindsight, like when that program came to our school, everybody was kind of like, oh, this is dumb. What is this? This is stupid. But now, like that I'm actually like replicating some of those skills that I was like very crudely learning. It's like, oh, they were kind of ahead of the program there, because now my world is like, man, like it's really cool because it feels like I'm in college again, because like 1 minute I'm writing things for brands, or I'm taking photos, or I'm like working on a documentary idea. Like there's all these sorts of like things, and at the heart of it all is just storytelling. And if you understand how to tell a story and what it takes to make a story, and you're curious enough about people in the world around you, the tool, the medium, who cares? Like it's the essence beneath it all that matters.
That's so real, bro. So like, I mean, it goes back to what you're saying with like the word to describe yourself being like learner, curious.
Mm-hmm.
Curiosity did not kill the cat.
It did not kill the cat.
Satisfaction brought it back. That's tight.
No doubt.
That's wild though. I mean, it's just like your work, bro. Honestly, it looks like your work looks like you've been shooting for years and years.
I get that, dog. Now, I think it's just like the inspiration around you, and how you channel those things. And I think the thing is, like, in writing, I think a lot about the parallels between learning to write and learning to do photography at like this, in this world. And again, I'm not a professional by any, like I have a long way to go in terms of like what my real, voice is going to be. Like that's something I'm still shaping. But when you're a writer early on, your writing is very crude. You're very erratic. You don't really have a sense of the nuances and the details. And then at some point, whether that's college or whenever, you kind of start to realize, I can express myself and I can have a voice in this thing, and I can do certain things and create characteristics in my work that are ownable, or maybe not necessarily ownable, but they're indicators that, I am the person who wrote this. And photography, when you first started, you're kind of like replicating things that you see. And you're just kind of like doing things over and over. And then at some point you go, oh, it feels really good when I do this, or, oh, it's really interesting when I do this, or, oh, there's this pattern in things that I take photos of. I wonder if I could make that a recurring theme, or how can I push that? And then before you know it, like you have a voice in your photography, you have a tone, and you have a theme. And it's the same thing as writing, where now you're like, okay, I see what I'm trying to do, so how can I push that? Then you're looking for the influences, and you're looking for stories that match that theme, and how to like build off of that. So it's a very fun thing, and it's really cool to see how that same journey is true regardless of the medium. Again, it's all the same principles.
That's so real, bro. I think that's like, it's interesting because it's not common to find, I feel, at least in my opinion, our experience, to find copywriters or people that can travel like both lanes. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah. One of my friends, he's actually kind of doing the same thing. He's trying to reach that point. My friend Rob, he's a copywriter as well, and he just has been really trying to work on his photography stuff. It's a really cool perspective. I think. I think when you come from a writing background and you go into taking photos, you're instantly, at least I was instantly trying to figure out what's the story behind what I'm creating, and it can take a while to get there generally. But if you're already a storyteller, whatever you go to, like if for whatever reason I decided, oh, I'm gonna go be a painter. First of all, I'm trash, so don't ever think that would be reality. But I think that I would still be trying to figure out what I'm trying to say.
I think that's like one of the hardest things that I've had as a photographer. Like, photography was essentially my first medium.
Right.
And so, and like you know, I grew up in my mom's photo studio. I watched her, I learned from her.
Mm-hmm.
And her stuff was very family portraits, baby portraits, like the cute shit, right? And then and then I got to college and I was like, wow, there's this whole SoundCloud rap world. So I'm out here shooting like thoughts and rappers and gang members. And my mom's like, this is trash. And looking back, I realized like I never learned how to tell a story. Like, I had so much opportunity to tell so many stories of all the different characters I've shot and met. And I never did that. And like the fact that you did the opposite is so dope to me. Like, learning how to tell stories from the beginning. I love that, bro. It's so crucial, I feel.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, it's a really fascinating thing. And there's some things that maybe I missed out on because I didn't have that like technical training necessarily in the beginning. Like, I'm still now slowly teaching myself studio photography and how to actually light.
I got you, bro. I got you.
Man, but how to light something without having the luxury of the California sun, dictating what you do. Like, it's a whole new world. But again, that curiosity is like, let's see if I can figure it out. And I have a better sense of what I think the objective will be. So yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun. I guess for you, so since you've kind of like started on the inverse and now you're kind of realizing, oh, I need to find that story behind it. What do you feel like you're doing to sort of bring that storytelling element into what you do?
I think the other day I had a conversation with my my brother slash he DPs all my video stuff, William Rouse. And I really, like, we were just talking and like I was explaining, like, I feel like I'm stuck with my photo work. And then he showed me this photographer, Crutzen Studios, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
He's this dude that shoots old school, like large format, like crazy beautiful photos. But when you look at the photo, it's like you're like shook. This is one photo, and you're just like feeling all these different emotions, like what's happening,
Mm-hmm.
And I realized it's like I always have so many ideas in my head, right? And I'm always like, oh, let's just do it. I got to do it, But then I learned it's like it's not about just doing. It's about figuring out what's that story. And so, like, for me, I'm learning to hit the brakes and really analyze the thought and the idea and figure out how it could be an actual like story. Like what's the character? What's this character trying to get to? What does this character want? Like the basic, like super like basic shit that everybody learns at the beginning. I'm finally implementing that.
No, that's power. One of the things I've been implementing is, so I work in advertising as like my main day job type hustle. And everything's a presentation. You're making these little decks, presenting them to these clients, and
every day.
And it's not the most fun of processes. But the thing that I have done is I've taken that sort of like presentation mindset, and if I'm going to go into like a photo project, just to make sure I have those same touch points of like, what the story is, where it's going to be, what are the mood, what kind of poses, what am I trying to say? I'll create a full on like deck for one of these projects.
That's tight.
And then, if I ever need to take someone through the thing, or like a model, or, a art director or any type of collaborator, I send them this document, they get the inspiration, and then we just build off of it from there.
Bro, legit. I on my whiteboard right now, I have write up Zen Papi, write up Moscato, write up Trash Talk. Like all these ideas, I have like, all right, time to write these up. Like, because as soon as you put them, this is what my homie Will told me. As soon as you take these ideas and put them into a deck, put them on paper, they start to become real.
Yeah.
And that's terrifying, but that's like the best fucking feeling ever.
They can't just live in your head, man. They cannot. You need people to understand what you're trying to say, and you need to understand what you're trying to say, more importantly. So you just gotta, take that extra step to like slow it down and say, all right, what am I doing? What am I trying to say? And it holds you accountable so that you don't lose control. Because there's so many times where I'm like, oh, I want to do a story about people at bus stops. And then I'll go outside and I come back and I have pictures of trees. It's like, what was I doing?
Yo, talking about that, bro. Let's talk about your series, Nobody Rides the Bus in LA. Fire.
Oh, man, I appreciate it. It's still very early on. So just to give you a little backstory on that, the idea kind of came, so I've been in LA for 7 years now, straight out of college. And when I moved out.
Now, where's home?
Portland, Oregon.
Portland, Oregon.
So when I moved out here, I actually didn't even have a license. I was just never driving. Portland has a really good public transportation system.
Word.
And, a lot of people have cars, but it's like not the end of the world if you never drive.
Yeah.
We got like the great metro line and all that kind of stuff. And so when I came to LA, and I had never ever thought I would live in LA, but lo and behold, that's where my job opportunity was. And it was a complete culture shock for me to suddenly not have a good transit system, and to have to like figure out the whole car thing and all that kind of stuff. So like that's sort of like my relationship with transportation was like I could always get on the bus. I grew up like right on the metro line. I walked outside, walked across the street, I'd hop on the train and be wherever I need to be in the city. And so to be in, the second biggest city in America and to not have a functional way to really get around was like a thing that always stuck in the back of my head. And one of the things you always hear is, well, nobody rides the bus in LA. Nobody rides the bus in LA.
So real. And
I actually looked up, does nobody ride the bus in LA? And it's untrue. By the numbers, and not percentages wise, because percentages is different, but
yeah,
LA is still the second largest public transportation city in America, just because there's so many people here. Obviously, New York, nothing will ever beat the amount of people that use public transportation in New York with the subways and everything. But there's still a ton of people here who depend on public transportation to get to where they need to be. Now, when you look at the numbers of who are riding those buses and those trains in the city, it's something like, and I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but it's something like 40 or 50% people of color. More than 50%. Like a predominant majority of them are people of color.
Yeah,
poor people. A lot of homeless people and such. And so when I think about that phrase, nobody rides the bus in LA, it's a loaded phrase because there's a lot of nobodies riding this bus. So who are these nobodies that we're talking about, right?
Dang, bro.
And we're at this intersection now where the Olympics are coming to the city. And I think there's a possibility for like the World Cup to be split up here potentially at some point.
Dang.
So with all this stuff coming, we're going to see this big rush on metro projects so that we look like a modern city when everybody comes here. Which is funny because there's people who need this transportation that have been living in this city and paying taxes here all their lives and can't get those things. But
That part.
the minute that we have, the Olympics potentially being staged here, then all of a sudden we want to try to rush and get those amenities. And then to add on that, the way that they're going to bring in those amenities is going to displace people in a way that's going to push them further out to where they can't even use the public transportation anymore. So all of that was sort of like this stuff that was in my head where I'm like, okay, what can you do to sort of showcase who are these nobodies riding the buses in LA? And so the project is pretty simple. The idea is just to go around LA. I spend a lot of time downtown, but I'm hoping to get to all of the places that are sort of like hotbeds for, the violence of gentrification and, the displacement that's going on, and just kind of showcase who the people are who actually use public transportation in this city. This is something that I think is going to be like a longer term project. And I'm hoping to tie it to like the Olympics 2028, I believe it'll be, or 2029, whenever it comes here.
I think it's 2028 because I think it goes Japan and then somewhere.
Yeah. So it's one of my big passions. The challenge with it is like you just got to keep doing it. It's a very slow, painstaking process. When I first started it, I was shooting it all on film, and that got expensive. So then I was like, okay, I need to switch this up. So I finally got like a digital camera that I felt had a look and approach that still felt like it was a pretty good situation.
Dang. Yeah, I mean, like looking at the photos, bro, that one shot of the young boy and his mom.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, bro. So many feelings.
That's at the Jefferson La Cienega stop. I love that. I love the look. He was wearing like a Dodgers.
Yes.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
Bro, like that, like I can see that being blown up like 75 inches or something, like this huge.
I hope so one day.
Bro, we got like that, like this whole project needs to be exhibited for show.
Yeah, I'm slowly working on it. It's one of those things that like you just got to put in the time. Like, I feel like there's some good shots in there, but 2 years down the road, I'll probably look back and go, "Oh, what is this? This is embarrassing." So you just got to put in the time. Like,
it's so real.
Yeah, there's no shortcuts to it, really.
Bro, it's so that right there is the truth. It's just about it's honestly, I think it comes down to who wants it the most and who's persistent with it.
That's all creativity is, right? Persistence. Yeah. Like
message.
Are you curious enough to persevere through the obstacles, through the walls, through the discouraging moments, through your friends not really liking it, through so and so not hitting you back, through that model bailing on you? Like, are you still down to make this stuff happen? And for a lot of it, the answer is no. And for a lot of different mediums that I've tried, the answer was no. But yeah, it's just like that's all we do as creatives is just persevere. I don't know exactly how this thing was phrased when I saw it, but there was some kind of quote that like creatives are just the people who didn't stop trying.
Ooh.
There's something real to that.
I love that, bro. That's so real. I think so. I want to pick your brain about because you have like some corporate work, like with like Nike and Adidas, right?
Yeah.
So my question is there a difference between your projects like Nobody Rides the Bus in LA and your Nike work? Because when I look at them both, they both have that like that special in these eyes type, vibe.
Uh-huh.
But do you feel the same way about each or no?
So I've been slowly building up that side of things, projects with like Adidas and Nike and stuff like that. And it's been a slower process. And I think part of the reason why it's been slower is because I'm trying to do it in a way that it still resonates with what my work actually is. Like I feel like there's a lot of ways that you would feel encouraged to like, oh, I'm just going to do this because I know this is what Nike work looks like, or, oh, I'm going to do this because this is kind of what commercial projects want. But for me, it's like, I have this approach. I'm going to keep sharpening this approach, and I'm going to trust that people who reach out to me are reaching out to me not because they necessarily need a photographer for a project, which is the inherent truth, but I'm hoping that we have a project and we think you would be great for it and we love what you do. So I think that kind of mentality kind of allows for me to take on projects that I think I can still give that look that makes it a familiar thing and makes it all part of one system. But ultimately a client's going to want certain things, and maybe they have a certain color treatment that they like to do, or something like that. But I think for the most part, the work that I've done, it's been based on the work that I do in my own personal free time. So, I'm able to kind of do that. And I mean, the kind of stuff that I do is conducive to that. Like, a lot of the sports stuff I do, everything I do, it seems to have a documentary lifestyle element to it. So, right now I'm not shooting the big glossy magazine covers with like, a gazillion hours of Photoshop and retouching. I don't think anyone's going to reach out to me for that at this point in my career. But, if it's a documentary thing, if it's something that needs to feel a little more human, if it's a sports story that needs to feel like it transcends just sport, like I think that's starting to be an avenue in which people are reaching out to me for. So that's all been super great just for me. And in terms of like my book, it keeps me consistent where like I can go shoot a bus stop project and I can go do something for Adidas, and you can see that through line, and it just helps. It helps you really build your identity and your voice.
100%. I think that comes clear as hell through your book for sure. I think it's just like, do you think like I feel like because you're still in advertisement still, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, do you find a struggle between? So wait. So like, do you shoot full time? Are you still advertising and full-time photography, doing both, right?
So I worked full time in advertising for like 4 years or so through like various different companies, and I kind of reached a point where I realized, I love this photography stuff, but there's just no way I'm going to be able to do it to the level that I want with this full-time ad stuff because it's so unpredictable. You're working so long. They're demanding so much from you, not to mention the like logistics of like, if I work for an agency and one of their clients is Adidas, I can't go do that Nike photo shoot that's reaching out to me,
Right.
Like the pure logistics of it, or even it's usually bad juju to do any kind of extracurricular stuff. So you kind of go, okay, well, how am I going to do this? And so luckily, advertising makes for a pretty good freelance market. So I've worked in the industry for a while. I've had a lot of good relationships and interactions with people. So I built it up to where I could take that leap and say, I'm going to go freelance and I'm going to try to build up this photography thing to where it becomes either a viable part-time living, or eventually it transcends to become my main source of income. And in the meanwhile, I can do this advertising stuff 6 months, 8 months of the year.
Right,
Spend
right.
the rest of that time controlling how I want to manage, the photography stuff I do, whether that's, oh, let's just spend a few weeks doing this bus stop stuff, or, oh, I just got a call from so-and-so about a potential job. Like, I just have a lot more control over my reality. And it's a very, very fortunate place to be in. And, a lot of nasty hours in advertising kind of got me to this place.
Right.
But it's like a very, very fortunate place to be, for sure.
I think all that is what I wanted to get at, is because what I want to say is like the power of you saying yes gave you the power to say no. And like what I mean by that is like by you accepting that you have to still do advertising at points, right? Do the corporate blah, 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 blah. It gives you that power to turn down Nike because it doesn't fit you. It doesn't hold true to your art. Like, that's beautiful, bro. Like, just seeing like that, like the irony of it all,
No doubt. And I've always stressed that I'm very fortunate that I haven't put myself in a position to where I have to take whatever comes, because I feel like, one of the things that I've always been, I don't want to say resentful, but I think coming out of college as a writer with a journalism degree, under this impression that like the things that I write are going to save the world and change the world. And then you start working in advertising and you do 4 or 5 years of that, and you suddenly realize you're not really changing anybody's world. So like,
real, bro. Message.
it kind of like strained my relationship with writing in a lot of ways. And I kind of felt like, my writing became a commodity more so than just like a way for me to like express myself. And I think I'm kind of getting back to a place with writing where it's starting to feel like a way for me to be who I am. But I never wanted my photography to follow that same trajectory. And I think what I realized was, in writing so much for brands, I stopped writing for myself. And when you stop writing for yourself, you lose sense of your voice and who you are, as that artist, as that storyteller. So with my photography, I'm able to, first of all, it's much easier to do photos for yourself because it's just a matter of going somewhere and doing it. Whereas with writing, there's just so much more around just putting something together for me. And yeah, again, I just never wanted photography to reach that point. So, I'm able to slowly navigate it and handle it in a way that, keeps it true and keeps it as like a viable passion for me.
I think that's so tight. And I think it goes back to like a quote that Marvin told me, and it still resides with me to this day, your financial freedom brings you creative freedom until your creative freedom is your financial freedom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's big facts right there.
Like, absolutely. That's like a tattoo type shit right there.
Yeah. No, that's big facts for real. That's a really interesting one. Freedom is it's a funny thought. It's an interesting thought in this world. It's a huge one because, creativity so many times is the product of both tremendous pressure and tremendous freedom. Sometimes the limitations I set on projects become the biggest freedom because I don't have to think outside of those parameters, so I have to get creative within those parameters. And I know that's a bit of a tangent from where we were in the first conversation, but just the idea of freedom itself in creativity and what that means to us, whether that be freedom from the shackles of corporate media, or
Right.
whether that be freedom from your inhibitions. I think that, again, we're looking for creativity, either to be our freedom, our expression of freedom, our weapon in the pursuit of freedom.
Mm.
It's just a lot to process.
No, I feel it. I think that comes to I think all that comes to the question of like how to get there. You know what I'm saying? Like how to get to that point of
Tell me.
of
Let me know,
like
man.
like recently I posted a photo I took that's called like the family picnic, and it's like my generations with like nooses and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And posting that, I felt so creatively free just because I posted it because it meant something to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I made it because it meant something to me.
Right.
And I was like, you know what? Like I was talking to this one company about doing some influencer work for them. I guess side note, I guess I'm an influencer. I don't fucking know. But but like the thought came over, it's like I wonder if I post this, would that hurt that opportunity? And the part where I felt free was like, I was like, I don't care. This is me. You have to accept me as I am.
Right,
I'm a
right.
black man in America, and this is me depicting me.
Yeah.
And I felt so great, dude. Like,
Yeah. My existence is inherently political, so take that which you will.
right.
Yeah.
Drops a mic, walks off screen. Like, dude, I want to talk to you real quick, actually, about your Going Somewhere series too.
Yeah. So,
Bro, fire. Like
I appreciate that.
each shot just like has its own story, and all together they make up this story. And like, can you just talk to me about the process, or like where the idea came from? Because that's just a dope ass like idea.
So it's funny because I told you that, I would go outside, think I'm going to take photos of bus stops, and then I come back with photos of trees. That's kind of what happened here. So I was
Yes.
and do my bus stop series, and then all of a sudden, like, I just started noticing the pattern of people walking by me, and I was thinking about. I think the overarching thing that I'm really starting to talk about in my work is just the idea of mobility justice as a whole, and what that means in the city of Los Angeles, and trying to widen the understanding of how people navigate the city of Los Angeles. And I think the Nobody Rides the Bus in LA is an exploration of public transportation. And I think Going Somewhere is starting to get at this idea of like people walking the streets and what that looks like here. And a lot of those shots, you'll notice I'm like isolating the subjects on these streets to kind of like
Yes.
the sort of loneliness that they're kind of doing as they're walking through these streets that don't make sense. There's a gazillion people in the city, yet the sidewalks are relatively empty. That doesn't like you seldom see a crowded sidewalk in Los Angeles.
That's real. That's
You
real.
seldom do. But you seldom see an empty street.
Right. You see 5,000 cars,
Yeah.
bro.
We're all in these like little metal bubbles riding through the city.
Bro.
But I want to show like what alternative means of transportation look like. People walking around in LA, what that looks like. And I think the vision for it, and this will take me a long time to do it, but I love the idea of like walking into a gallery space and those little portraits with that same composition just all over the walls, like 100,000 of them smothered around you, and you just have to like absorb that world around you. That's the overall vision.
Bro.
Yeah, I
Bro.
want that so bad. It's just time again. It's just you got to do that time, and then like I showed it to a photographer who I have like a ton of love for. Very talented dude. And he was saying he was starting to see it, but like you just need more time with it. That's the truth. So
I feel that. I think it goes back to the whole topic, bro, of fucking being patient with this shit as creatives.
man, you
We
gotta
live
be.
in because we live in this digital age where I can just zoop, scroll, 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 scroll. Oh, hey, I'm done I'm inspired for the day, you know.
Right.
But
And I think I always try to keep in perspective the like, and I don't want to say, because you know, anytime you talk about privilege, it's always like something that people assume that you didn't earn or work for or whatever. But um, I do like there's a tremendous level of privilege in the way that I am able to take on creative projects where they can truly be these little vessels of creativity, and there's no urgency around them. You know, like I've never really felt like if I don't make money off of photography, my life is going to be in shambles.
right,
You know, and there's a lot of photographers where that's their world. They need to
yeah,
photo jobs as much as possible. Um, and you know, I'm just very lucky that that's the world that I'm in, and I try to like get the most out of that and make sure that I'm, you know, tackling projects in a way that feels right. Um,
right.
yeah, but it's something to definitely think about, especially in times like these where nobody's really doing anything. You know, um, I am in a position where, you know, I can pick up an ad gig to get me through
Right.
these times, and then once the world kind of picks back up, I can transition myself back into being available for photo gigs and doing my personal projects. Um,
Yeah.
and I think what this actually is a big lesson for me, and I think for any creative coming up right now, is I feel like we can't rest on one job title anymore. I don't know who's trying.
Message.
I don't know who's trying to do that anymore. I know even me when I got out of uh, advertising full time, I was like, oh, I'm just going to be a full time photographer, um, and that was never my reality. And I kind of didn't like that idea that, you know, there was always going to be something else I had to do. But I think looking at what's happening right now, um, I think this idea of uh, creative entrepreneurship is probably the vaguest way to say it, but just this
Mm.
idea of like, yo, I just solve problems with my creativity, and that's what I do. I think that that's kind of the mindset that creatives really need to have right now. Because I'll tell you what, nobody right now wants a photo from me, uh, you know. So I've still got
Right.
to put food on this table. So yeah,
Right.
I think we've just got to be so versatile in these times, and the world is demanding that of us.
I think that's what I've always had a struggle with that internally because I like to do so many. I'm so curious. I'm like you. I'm curious about so many different things. I like to learn about making music. I like to write poetry. I like to shoot photos, video, art direct, whatever, you know.
Should, yeah.
And it's like, but then, you know, there's like that old famous quote of like, uh, uh, something of many, master of none. You know, like
All trades, master of none, or whatever. That, yeah.
yeah, yeah. And then I'm like, then I start feeling self-conscious. I'm like, dang, well, I guess I'm a fucking jackass, you know, like
Man, no, 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 no. I think even one of the things I do appreciate about my time in advertising, um, I hate that I'm a creative middleman all the time, where it's like I come up with this cool idea, I pitch it to this brand who wants to buy it to go get someone to actually make that idea, and then facilitate all these other people to make that idea. But what you do kind of learn in that is you learn the value of knowing all these. So like when I go into a creative project for an agency or for a company,
mm-hmm.
you know, we're briefing in a director, we're briefing in an editor, we're, having music people work on this thing, we're working with colorists, like we have all these different avenues that I don't need to be the master of, but I had better be able to sit in that room and know what's good and what's not.
That part.
And there's a tremendous amount of value in that. And also what it's done for me too is I get like a really top level crash course in all these different things. So then it's like, if something resonated with me, I can go try and figure that out on my own and really develop those skills. I think photography is a good example of that, where like I'm around a lot of photographers and, I can see those things that they're doing and they're learning. So then I can take those things away and work on that craft myself. Or, I'm working with this sound designer and I love what they're doing with music and stuff like that. So I have my own little mini music setup over here that I can at least dink around a little bit with.
Right.
So I don't think anybody needs to, in this era, worry about the fear of being a master of none. I think obviously you need to have something that you like really believe in is really like the core of what you do. And I know that you're probably selling yourself short because I know what your core is. The thing that you do the most, and the thing that resonates with you the most. But as a storyteller, which at the core is what you are, you know what I'm saying? Like that extends into everything.
Dang.
I think you seeing it as, I'm not the master of any of these things versus I understand a little bit about all these things. Like it's just how you want to see it and how you use that knowledge.
Dang, bro, I love that. Got me feeling right, bro. Okay.
Yeah, good, bro. Good.
Well, let's wrap it up with the round of speed questions.
All right, here we go.
You ready for this, bro?
Ready.
All right. Day or night?
For photography, day. For life, night.
Biggest inspiration?
Woo, that's a big one. I know this is supposed to be a speed round. Man, yeah, that's too big. I think off top, I'll just say an inspiration. I think one of my inspirations, or a couple of my inspirations, were these photographers, Martin Parr and Jürgen Teller. I loved the worlds that they created. I love the way that they used the flash in their photography, and how they captured their stories. Whether it was like a fashion shoot with Jürgen or portraits of people on the beaches in Martin Park. I loved those looks and I wanted to incorporate those in the world that I saw. So taking what they did and trying to translate that into Venice basketball or public transportation in Los Angeles. That was sort of like the basis of how I started to craft my own personal voice. And I think those sort of meshing of worlds kind of created something new for me. So I think those two are probably like a very big influence for me.
That's tight. Main pet peeves? Or pet peeve, just one.
Main pet peeve? I don't know, actually. Maybe, I don't know. I'm in a good vibe right now. I'm not going to worry about
There we go. I love it. Comedy or drama?
Drama.
What's your dream car, if you have one?
Car that works and will drive 1,000,000 miles without breaking down.
Ooh, was that a Honda?
A Honda, Toyota, something, man. I'm over. Look, I didn't get a license until I was like 27, so I'm not a car person.
I feel it.
Not a luxury for me that I've been ever super excited about.
I feel that. Where would you rather be from, LA or New York?
Probably Los Angeles.
Hey.
Although it's tough because Angelinos are actually real cool. It's the transplants that can be a pain. People like me can be a pain.
That's good, bro.
Los Angeles has a way of attracting entitled people from all over the world to come here because they believe that LA was made for them to live out their dreams of being a celebrity with a glorious and vapid lifestyle. So like so and so from the Midwest who was the most glamorous and lovely person in Nebraska moved to LA and think that they're gonna be a superstar like they were in Nebraska, and then lo and behold, it ain't like that.
I'm dead, bro. If you had to choose one for the rest of your life, music or photography?
Photography.
Weed or alcohol?
Neither, actually.
Okay, there we go.
No, I don't. I've never drank or smoked or anything. So
what? Shout out to you, bro.
no,
Yeah. This right here is grape juice.
No, it's a personal choice. It's nothing that like I judge anybody for or anything like that. It's just the way that I've always kind of gotten around.
That's tight, bro. Respect.
Like, by the time I've hit this age, it's like I haven't done it ever. So it's like too late for me to be like, oh yeah, let me have a little bit of that. Let me have a hit of this. It's like, yo, it's like part of my brand at this point to not smoke or drink.
I love it. I love it, bro. That's tight. And the final question, Papi and Friends podcast or Papi and Friends podcast?
You can give me a choice, man. I'm gonna have to go with Papi and Friends podcast.
Boom, 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 boom. Yo, yes. Thank you, bro, for hopping on this podcast with me, bro.
Hey, thanks for inviting me, bro. This was fun, for real.
We're for sure gonna have to do a follow up. I'm like there's other things I want to talk about, but it's just like this time, for sure we got more to talk about for sure.
Look, man, I ain't got nowhere else to be right now, so just let me know. I'm still here.
Hell yeah, bro. And before I forget, I gotta mention that this podcast is sponsored and powered by Solid Coffee, based in Bellflower Artesia, California.
All right,
but
Mike.
Yeah, thank you, bro, for hopping on this with me, for real.
Yeah, appreciate you.